shown interest in the program during the shutdown. Right now we have a list that is about 18 people long of folks that have gotten in touch with us during the pandemic. And I've invited them to join us to these meetings. And so it's good to have those folks coming on board. And it's also good for everybody to realize that there's still a lot of interest in our program, and going forward, we're going to see some new faces, and I think that's great. So I'm going to check my status here real quick, and then we'll get going. These things always take a few minutes, so I thank you for your indulgence while I take attendance and do some of this kind of stuff. Good to see everybody. Got a few things to talk about. I did put some information in the little email that went out about a week ago and announced this meeting. So I wanted to go over a couple of things there. A lot of this information has come from either Jet or Kevin, and they're our eyes and ears with the Arizona VA, and they provide a lot of really good information for us, and I'm passing that along. We also get an update on, or I get an update on a weekly basis from a lady named Julia Ferguson, who's the Chief Program Officer at Healing Waters National. And she provides a little bit of information, sometimes some links to some documents and that kind of stuff. For the most part, it's pretty technical stuff, and you don't need to worry about it. But there's some pearls of wisdom in there once in a while as well. So I'll pass those along, and I did copy some of that information and put it into the email that I sent out on the 12th. The latest that I've gotten from National is that officially we are shut down to any personal one-on-one meetings between now and the 1st of March. There were emails that were cycled around beforehand that said that that would be the 30th of March or the 31st of March, and then it came out officially as the 1st. The offices at National are going to remain closed, and everybody is going to be working from home until the 30th of June.
Wow.
And that's now official. They are also using information based on these national studies and the national information that's coming out of Johns Hopkins University as far as the infection rates, death rates, et cetera, around the country. And I believe that they're going to want us to use that information for our decisions going forward on what we open up. And frankly, I don't think it's a good choice. And I'll say that, and I'll tell that to the CEO, because it's very broad-based information. It takes in the entire state, and our data from Maricopa County is quite a bit different than the state level. And consequently, I believe that we'll be using the Maricopa County data. So if you should be getting anything from National that says we're going to be using the Johns Hopkins information, we'll have to see how that goes. But right now, I'm looking at using the more local data. And our numbers in Maricopa County are significantly higher than what is shown in the Johns Hopkins data. So I'll just give you that to think about for a bit. There's also some information in the email about, VA links for COVID-19 information. Um, you may or may not be aware that they have changed the lower limit for age qualification for category 1B down to 65 years of age. Okay, it had been 75, but effective today, it is now 65 for Maricopa County. And I was able to get on and get a date for my wife and I today. It took a while. The website is not very forgiving. It is not very friendly at all, but I was able to get on. But the earliest appointment I could get is on the 15th of February. So it's almost a month away. Okay. And it happens to be at 8:53 or something like that p.m. at night out in Glendale at the football stadium. Okay.
Well, I'm going to be there
Only
tomorrow
ones that are
morning at
available.
10. So
What's that?
I'll be there tomorrow morning at 10. So
Oh, good for you.
yeah, lucky.
You got
Took
lucky.
about 4 hours, Richard.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not surprised. Yep.
Hey, Rich, make sure you put a sleeping bag in your car so you can sleep while you're waiting.
Yeah. I've heard stories from other parts of the country that are just horrible. I've got people, a niece of mine needed to just get a test, and it took her 4.5 hours online to get an appointment to get a test. And that was in Connecticut. So then she spent another 4 hours online someplace else just to get the test. So she had 8.5 hours invested in getting a single test. So it's been pretty crazy, as you all well know. So there's that coming along. And as I say, I'll keep you updated on anything else that's coming out of National. There is also some indication that we may have, once things do open up after the 1st of March, if that happens, where we will have some one-on-one type classes or meetings, which would be a vet and a volunteer. They would be outdoor activities such as casting instruction or fishing or something that would be done outdoors. And there would only be 2 people at that location. And so there won't be any group meetings of any kind. And we'll have to wait and see how that shakes out. Yes, I've got someone by the name of Samsung would like to join the meeting. So we'll see who that is. Mary, good evening. Good to see you.
Hello.
Your new name is Samsung.
Okay, I am Samsung.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So as I say, we'll have to wait and see what kind of information we get from National and how we schedule those one-on-one trainings and meetings. There is also some indication that we may take some fishing trips as a group in Q4, but more than that right now, we don't know. So that's the story on that stuff. Let me see what else I've got here. There's some other things that are continuing, efforts are continuing, specifically the Hooked on Healing motorcycle ride, which was scheduled for March the 6th, has now been postponed until October 23rd. And the reason is pretty obvious. concern about everybody's safety and the uncertainties that we face right now with the spike in numbers, et cetera. However, I did get an email today from the guy that runs the show on that, which is Stan Kaufman, and organizations that he's working with that are making donations directly to the program are still on board, and they are still planning on making their donations. And it looks like the donations are very much the same as they were last year, if not a little better than they were last year. And of course, we have an extra 6 months to contact some folks to see about that. So that effort is continuing in the background, and which is great. These guys are still 100% behind us and making good progress on that. And John Galvez is going to be making a rod for a raffle for that effort. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to hand over the rod and the materials and stuff to him later this week. The rod blank was donated by JC, and it's a 7-piece, 9-foot, 5-weight travel rod, which is perfect for these motorcycle guys. It actually fits in their saddlebags. So others we've made some others in the past for them, and they've been really well received. And so John has offered to do the honors this year. And so thank you, John. That's great. And thank you, JC, for the blank. It should be well received, and hopefully it'll bring some money into our coffers. So we got that going on. If you haven't been attending, I know a couple of you have been attending the meetings with AFC. I would certainly encourage you to join on their virtual meetings. Last week, they had a guy by the name of Jim, can't remember his last name now, but he's with Yellow Dog Fly Fishing in Montana. And he gave a really nice presentation on fishing in Montana, as well as their other sites around the world. And AFC has been doing a great job of providing video programs. And I would certainly encourage you to get on their website. You're all welcome to participate in those Zoom meetings. I have sent a list of everybody that's a participant and a volunteer in our program to AFC, and they've got you on their mailing list. So you should be getting emails from them. If you're not, let me know, and I'll make sure that you get on their list. They've been doing a really good job. They've had, in some cases, weekly Zoom meetings, and the content has been really good. So they've got a lot of people working on that. So that's good. Let's see what else I've got here. CRM, the contact management system, and the system that we use for registering everybody. We had our first effort on doing a mass invitation to everybody. There were some issues. Gary and Pledger both joined me for some training with the gal from National, and we went through 2 hours worth of training on how to invite people to these programs, et cetera. In small numbers, it seems to work pretty well, but when I went to do the mass mailing to everybody, there were some issues. So if you can just give me a show of hands of how many people got invitations from National for this meeting tonight, it'll give me an idea of how effective it was. Okay.
How do we raise our hand on here?
Put it in
Turn
front of
on
the
the
camera.
video.
You go to your video, you go to your picture, and then in the
Oh.
upper right
Yep,
hand,
or you can give me a
Or
thumbs
I
up
can-
icon or something like that.
No, I did not. So you can count me as a no.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. About half of you or less actually got that. I'm still working on figuring out how to do the invitations and get everybody on the list. And then I found out that there were people from other parts of the country, specifically Washington State, that were invited. And, yeah. So they sent an email and saying, well, we got this invitation to go to your thing on Tuesday night. What are you doing and why? Kind of thing. And so I went back and looked, and I have no idea how they got on there. They're obviously not members of our program, but they got invited anyway. So we've got to get that ironed out. There's also some issues. Somebody's got something going on in the background. If you could mute that, that would be great. There were issues with me getting emails from unknown people about waivers, was the title of it. It's got some issues, so we're going to continue to work our way through those things, and hopefully they won't be too difficult to resolve. But I'm going to work with National to try and get some of this stuff a little more personalized. One of the things that hit me when I saw the invitation was that it's an invitation from the PHWFF staff. It does not give any indication of the program name or anything like that. Okay, it's very impersonal. And for that reason, if not any other, I will continue to send you out the emails and the email ticklers like I did on Sunday night, just a brief one with the sign up information so that it hopefully will be not rejected by your email server, number one. And number two, when I sign in, at least you know it's coming from me, so you know not to show up. Okay, but you know, hopefully we can try and keep this a little bit more personal, because I think that's important to this program. So that's what I've got so far for tonight. Has anybody been fishing? Have we got any fish stories to tell?
I made it out to Dead Horse Ranch about a week ago, and I ended up doing really well actually on the river, Vice the Ponds. I started out on the river, caught, you know, a good amount of fish, and then, you know, about 11 o'clock or so moved to the ponds and then had no luck. Didn't see a lot of people catching fish. Went back to the river and, you know, had good luck again. But I wouldn't pass up that opportunity if the ponds are slow to take a look at the river. The casting's a little tricky with roll casting, but I mean, there's fish in there.
Yep. Was it the access that you used on the river, Gary, was that right near the parking lot? Because it looks like there's a ramp that goes down to the river. I imagine that's how they stock it.
Right. You go, I've always gone, the times that I go down to the river, as soon as you enter the park, you actually, I think it's the first right you take.
Right.
You drive all the way down to the back of that parking lot, and then it's an easy walk down there. Yeah, that's where the ramp is. It's a dirt ramp.
Right.
But there's a space there. And then if you move upstream from there, if you work your way upstream from there, there's usually fish you can find there.
Yeah. That area right under the bridge always looked really good. Did you get that far upstream?
I did not.
No, okay.
I actually went the other way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't go upstream. I went the other way. And, I donated some flies to some trees every once in a while, but it was still worth the effort.
Yeah. Last time I was there, I noticed there were a lot of overhanging trees, and there were a couple of people, lobbing lures into the pools, and they were able to keep them out of the trees. River's pretty small right there.
Yeah, you can do it. You just got to be really careful.
Yep. Yep. Good. All right. Anybody else done any fishing?
In my pool,
Any luck?
nah, nothing worth keeping.
I netted a lot of stuff out of my pool today too, but it was all leaves. It's the best I could do. All right, Todd, you're back in town. It looks like you've got palm trees behind you, and I know that's not from Utah.
Lower Salt, I think.
That could be,
I wish.
except for the waves.
Yeah, I think it might give it away.
Yep. Grandbaby doing well.
Yep, I'm doing
Todd is
really
a new
well.
grandfather.
Doing good. It's awesome. Looking forward to getting back up there. But we got out of Utah, but my wife did catch COVID on the way out.
Oh,
Stay
jeez.
safe. She's doing well. She's recovered now. We're fine. I never got it. I tested twice at the VA, 10 days apart each time, and came through it no problems, which was good. And she's doing really well now, but just everybody stay safe. It's out there.
Yep. It hit our family as well. My daughter-in-law brought it home with her from work and gave it to my son. He had very minor symptoms, but she was pretty sick for a couple of days. Everybody's over it. My wife and I tested negative, but it caused us to postpone Christmas for 12 days. So just to be on the safe side. But everybody's doing well now, so that's the important part. And hopefully it stays that way. That would be best. All right. Someone has just joined us, and I just have a phone number here for you. Who's there? Phone number ends in 3454.
That's me again. I bounced out and bounced back in. You readmitted me.
Okay, and your name?
Jim Allegretti.
Oh, hey, Jim. Okay. Sorry. Just want to make sure I get everybody on the attendance roster here. Good. So that's about all I've got. I haven't got a fishing report for you, unfortunately. You know, we've been tied down with all this other stuff going on. So Norm's going to do our presentation tonight on water safety and our certification program.
Got a question.
You would like to get into that, Norm?
Who just went to sleep there? Come on, wake up. Right. One prop, you've seen it before, name tag, whistle, and your medical tube. You're gonna need these at any of the events, be they in the pool or in the training on the river or the lake. All right, so that's my prop. So now, Rich, we'll see if I can actually bring this thing up here.
Yeah, when you go down the bottom of your screen, probably, Norm, there's a button that says share screen.
Yep.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Wow, there it is.
All right, ta-da.
Right.
We good?
We're
All
good.
you others need to mute.
All right, so what we'll do here is just kind of march through this. If you snore, mute. This is what we'll cover, why we're doing this, the fact that it's voluntary, and it's you pick where you want to go with it. We'll tell you the steps. I'll tell you what you need to bring to both the pool sessions and the river or the lake. We'll go through each of the certs and then discuss what a typical day would look like, so you get some idea of the timing for the pool, the salt river, and the lake. And then there'll be an advertisement for boat drivers. And so if you're not and want to be, we'll kind of tell you how. All right, the why is all about safety. When we started the program, we talked about the possibility of going wading or floating. There was a lot of pushback against that idea of taking our disabled vets out. Lots of experienced fishermen with first and second person stories of near misses. Healing Waters actually lost one of their vets when a boat swamped a number of years ago. So we started slow. We tried to do everything we could to reasonably ensure the safety and provide those enhanced opportunities. The key element of our whole program is that wearing a PFD is required, period. That's it. And a PFD is personal flotation device, life jacket in one of various forms, but when we do our water stuff, they will be worn. We want you to know, and for those of you who will research, bear with me. For those of you that are new, we want you to know that if you're wearing a PFD, you will float and you can survive, and that your buddy knows that also. Those of you who have lifeguard training in your old days, you know that I'm only half joking when I say, I want to know that you're not going to climb up on my back if we go overboard. And you want to know that about me too. All of the vets and volunteers that are in the program will be with you on one of these trips, have been through this program. 55 vets, 45 volunteers so far. So we'll address safety in the context of each part of the certification as we go on. The other reason is, another reason that we want to do this is for training. Teach you about the equipment that you'll be using and some of the techniques to use it well. Perhaps even train, show guys like Ed some new tricks. We're going to recertify every 2 years. You, not me, but you're getting older. So we want your body changes. So we want to go back and make sure that we're staying kind of up with your conditions, and you're staying up with mine. This is voluntary. Most of our fishing is done from shore. These sessions involve only a fraction of our fishing opportunities. So you choose your comfort level and stop when you're ready. We do reserve the right not to certify you. We watch these certs, and if in our opinion it's not safe for you, or you're not going to be safe for us, we reserve that right to say no. Now, each of these activities that we'll discuss today, the pool sessions and the training sessions, are logistically a big pain in the butt. They're also volunteer intensive. So if you're saying you're coming, please show up. So this, in 25 words or less, is the progression. You can almost read it from right to left. If you want to go boating, you have to have the boat certificate, number 1 over there. The ones with numbers in blue are done in the pool, and they can be done in a single day. Then there's that artful wader training, which looks a lot like the Salt River to me on a sunny day. And the float training will be done at one of the lakes. Bill Larson would probably pick to do the second part of the float tube training. So if you wanted to go wading, for example, now you got to go with the flow. You do number 1 plus number 2 plus the wader training. If you wanted to do float training, you've got to do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus the second part of the float stuff, which is the actual training on the lake. Okay, any questions on this?
When?
Post-vaccine. And Pledger will tell you when the pool warms up. Okay, what you'll need for these sessions, I mentioned the name tag, whistle, medical tube, bring a hat, bring a bathing suit, a towel, and an extra pair of socks that will be getting wet. And for the wader and float training, the instructor will give you a much more detailed list, but you'll probably need a license, parking permit, rod and reel, sunblock, and everything. So before you go to the river or the lake, you'll be invited, basically. You will have passed your required pool stuff, and the instructor, typically Mark or Bill or somebody else, will contact you and let you know in detail what you need to bring. Okay, the boat cert. This is the part 1. This is, I'm just going to outline here. We'll go through a typical timeline at the end, but this is what we're going to cover. We'll do the safety briefing. We might tap you to do a safety briefing because you should all have it by heart now, right? 6 parts, starts at the top, send it out to your friend, etc. We do that with all of these sessions. We'll go through a PFD familiarization. We'll talk about the different types there are. We'll talk about how to put them on. You'll probably get some help if it's your first time getting them adjusted. And the key, one of the things we'll emphasize here is that you want to put them on before you get on the boat or get in the water, because it is very difficult to put them on in the water, and you'll spend a whole lot of time trying to do that, and time you should be worrying about other things. So put them on before, and that's the program requirement. So we'll do a demo. We'll get Pledger or Gary or some brave fool, depending on the water temperature, to go in and show you what we're going to ask you to do. And so the first thing you'll be doing in the boat cert is you put your vest on. You're going to get in, typically 2 at a time. You're going to float. You're going to pick your feet up off the ground, and you're going to float around. You're going to maneuver. You're going to turn clockwise and counterclockwise. We'll show you how to adjust your PFD, because almost guaranteed it will be too loose by the time you get in the water. And so by leaning on your back, you can actually pull it down and adjust it. If you try and do that vertically, it ain't gonna happen. So these are the things that you'll be doing. And then you'll swim 40 yards, 4 lengths of the pool, no time limit. Just keep your feet off the bottom. And this is basically to show you and show us that you know that you're fine in the water. You can handle this, and you can go a minimum distance that would be potentially required to help you get out of trouble. All right. Once you've done that, you're done. You're ready to go to Woods Canyon. This boat cert is used. We go to Woods Canyon in rental boats 3 times a year, and there are typically 1 or 2 other outings at which you would use a boat cert. We have an opportunity pops up, and you get to do that. Wader cert, then is, again, we're going to go through the familiarization of the different types of waders, talk a little bit about sizes. Many people try to put on one that's too small and they wind up not helping. Talk about belts and the role they play, and then we'll get you socks on, waders on, belts on, PFDs on. We don't use boots in the pool because they don't really contribute anything. You'll use those on the river. But for this exercise, basically what we're looking for is you find out what it's like to have the buoyancy of the waders and here again, we'll do a demo, do maneuvers. We want you to turn around and then we'll do a feet first swim. And when we started out, the whole idea for the feet first is to bump off rocks with your feet instead of your head. And I was looking at some pictures from the early days when we did this. This whole thing, the whole water program is a work in progress. And there may be opportunities to do it better. But the first time we did that, people were lying absolutely flat out on their back and they couldn't see where they were going. So we really want you to do something like sitting in a couch position where it is pretty comfortable with a PFD and especially when you've got water in your waders, so you can actually look ahead and see where you're going. And then the other thing is when you get close to getting out, you want to flip over and do a head first swim out. So that's the demo. When you get in, we'll do you two at a time. We'll walk in and do the float, the maneuvers. You swim 2 lengths, feet forward. And again, here we have no time limit. You're the modeling drifting down the river because the river is carrying you because you fell in, right? So you don't have to make a lot of steam, but you have to make progress. And then you can stop in deep water and you stand up and take the belt off and fill your waders with water and then float. And you're going to find out that contrary to the old wives' tale, you're not going to drown. And so we'll do the float and maneuver. You'll find out it's a little different field now that you've got water in the waders than it was before. The legs are not as buoyant. So you'll swim another 10-yard length of the pool, feet forward, and then you'll turn over and swim 10 yards on your head with your head forward. Head forward for 10 yards. Then you can exit, peeling off the waders to drain the water, and then you rinse them off and hang them out to dry. And that's you're done. Questions on that? Next thing that happens in the wader department is out on the Salt River, and that will be the training. And Mark and Bill Larson, if you're not lucky, you'll get those as the instructors, and they'll put you through it. So here again, we go through a discussion of the gear, the waders, the boots, the belts, wading staffs. That is going to be your best friend on the river. Other clothing, sunglasses, PFDs, etc. And they'll go through what you should do in the water, how to know the flow, read the water, create a plan, how to move, how to shuffle, how to handle rocks and logs, how to use that staff. Go through wading safety, and fatigue is an issue that builds up pretty quick. You've got to come back. The reason this becomes very important is there's no substitute for feeling the force of the water and how slippery the rocks are. There's no discussion that takes place on land that really gives you that feel. They tell you what not to do when you're wading, and we'll see how you do with that. Then we'll do a safety briefing and then get you to suit up and actually walk down to the river. And these are the things that entering safely, standing, shuffling, turn upstream, downstream, You'll be working with partners. Sometimes your best friend is the reason you're going to get to where you want to go and help each other. This will actually be some casting down here. There may or may not be fish. There may be some of that rubber hatch going on, the float tubers going by at high speeds. So that's it. So that's the waiter training portion. Okay. Okay, so if we want to get beyond boats and wading, the float tubes and kayaks, that sort of thing, these are wonderful opportunities. The challenges are less well defined. We've identified some of them, and we'll go through the one that to me is the most worrying. And but there are other things that can happen. You're a little more independent with all of this, and so we want to set the qualification bar a bit higher. So this is the only time we'll want you to swim without a PFD, and so we'll just be 40 yards, 4 lengths of the pool. And what we're looking for here is that you're sufficiently capable of swimming that if you get in trouble, you'll be able to worry the issues and not worry about survival. Right? So that was the reason for introducing this free swim. Then we can move on to the float certification. We note a pattern here. We start with the equipment familiarization, how to inflate these beasts, the stripping baskets. You'll have a new kind of boots. Fins that I meant to mention at the river. You'll actually be adding boots to the other gear. If you're smart, when you're at the waiter certification, you'll make sure that you have a good idea what size waders fit you, so that when you get to the river, you can say, I want those extra large. And you can then pick out the boots. You get some clue by the flat boots that we're going to talk about here. These are a different kind of boots. They're not the studded lugged ones that you'll use for wading. These actually have a less aggressive bottom, and they're going to fit in the fins. The fins themselves are not your typical scuba fins. They're designed basically to move you when you kick forward. So the float tube safety is the next thing. We'll talk about leaning, not to, because you can fall out and tip over. And inflation is the real problem, and a limp tube is not your friend. Okay? And we may or may not demo that. Initially, we thought this was only going to be an issue, that rolling over in a tube was only an issue if you had 2 chambers and they asymmetrically, you had a leak on one side and not the other. It turns out that this becomes a problem even if you have, like the ones we have, a single tube and it loses its pressure. And then when you lean to one side, you wind up making it asymmetric, and the air is delighted to go over the other side and float. And that's a unsustainable situation. And you can roll amazingly fast, as Pledger found out one day. That fast, you might imagine. So we'll talk about that at some length, and also the mitigation. And the mitigation is if you have a tube that's got a substantial leak, you want to get out of it because it will roll. And what we're worried about is it trapping you when it rolls. So the exit strategy says you'll get rid of the basket and you'll actually eject. You'll push yourself out of it. Once you get in the water, you're exactly where you were back when you were in the waiter cert. Right? You're all set. So it's not a big deal, but we want you to do it. We don't want you to be shy about it. So we'll do a demo and we'll show you the maneuvering. Maneuvering is another interesting issue in this float cert program. You'll have these fins on, and it takes a little while to figure out how to move your legs in a way asymmetrically that is going to allow you to turn. If you can't turn, you're going to get blown across the lake, and we'll see you next Thursday. So maneuvering is a significant issue. It will take you a couple of minutes to figure that out. And once you do, you're all set. So we'll have you, after the demo, get you in the PFD, boots, fins, tubes. We don't bother with waders here. You'll wear waders when you're actually floating, but for this, there's nothing unique about it as far as this maneuver. So the maneuvering is the big deal here. And then being able to move 6 lengths. You'll have these wonderful fins, these $100 fins that will push you up and down the pool pretty easily. So you will then do an eject in deep water, get out of the pool, rinse the gear, and you're home free. So training then is the second part of the float stuff, which would take place actually at a lake. And this may be, we've actually done this as part of a trip. We don't necessarily, if we can, we'll do this as a standalone day, but it wouldn't necessarily keep you from going on a float trip. And here again, we'll talk about the gear, do a safety briefing. We'll go through the entry and exit techniques. When we did it, sat you down at the pool, we actually helped you put your fins on. You're sitting on the steps, get you organized into the float and out in the water. When you're doing it from shore, it's a little different. There are a couple of ways to do it. We'll go through that and discuss what the plan for the day is. And hopefully we'll actually get some fishing in that day. So you get some casting experience on the float and actually have a nice day. So we'll demo the entry and exit, and then you'll gear up with all this stuff and launch, fish, recover, and store the gear. All right? Questions? Okay. Typical pool cert day, 7:15 or so, the staff shows up. And I want to give you just a little list of the staff here to let you know when I say it's volunteer and gear intensive. We got somebody who's wearing the sign-in. We've got lap counters, lifeguards, demonstrators, the cert leads for the different certs. We've got helpers, coffee makers, and somebody's got to be adult supervision in all of this. So it's a bunch of people to help you get through this. So this is typical. 8 o'clock, the new vets and volunteers, we take groups up to about 10. Sign in and change. You can change at the pool, get in your bathing suit. We'll go through a safety brief. We can do all 4 certs in a couple of hours with that group. And again, you pick where you want to stop. We get done, we get the waders and boots rinsed and drying. And so roughly 10:15, 10:30, you can be done. So it's 2.5 hours. To go through the 4 certs. And then we'll talk about recerts. If you've been through this once, we'll recertify you 2 years later. We can take groups again to about 10. They tend to be a little more unruly because they think they know it all now. So they're a little harder to control, but whips work. We'll do the safety briefing. We'll go through the certs. And they're done typically 1.5 hours. So it's been known in the past that occasionally by about noon, Norma Samus hot dogs are ready. I know that'll get Coco out there. Coco out there. All right, so typical waiter training day. We got our staff shows up at the river with all of the boots and all of the waders and all of the PFDs and all the rest of that stuff. So you better show up. Then the trainees show up. We go through, as we mentioned earlier, discussion of the gear, do's, don'ts, safety briefings. By 9 o'clock, you're suited up and out on the water. And by 10:15 or 10:30 or so, you're pretty much done. And we may have a second group that day, starting again about 10:30. So this has a slightly smaller crowd because they don't make coffee. Flight training day, similar thing. Day starts early for the staff. And here, well, I didn't mention on the waiter training. It depends on the instructor, but Mark will have you casting. You may or may not want hooks on there. But on float training day, we're probably going to fish, so you want to rig your rod and get your gear ready. Then we'll get to walk you through inflating the tubes, so you've done it by now. Safety briefing, and you're in the water by 9, out by 11:30ish. Help for the gear, and that's kind of a long day. All right. So if you want to be a boat driver, we need you to complete a boating safety course. A number of you have. Right at the moment, there are no free classroom courses at Game and Fish, but maybe when this gets over, they'll do that again. It's a 1-day course, and you get your card. There are online courses, several, and you can see them at Game and Fish Education/boating, and they cost about $35. And also on that website is a phone number for a home study course. And that basically is the Water Cert program. Any questions?
Are we going to, Norm, are we going to teach the new folks how to walk backwards in their fins? No, I'm serious. I'm serious. Because
No.
That's the float training, Ed. That's exactly right. It's they won't do it in the pool. We could actually do it in the pool, but the water's so deep it's probably not the same. But when you try to exit or enter, depending on the technique you're going to use, that's exactly what the float training is about at the lake. So yes, thank you. Good question.
Hey, Norm.
Yep.
In your pool, there's that ledge that comes off of the steps. You could maybe do a little bit of the backwards walking training then on that, but it would be maybe one person at a time.
Yeah, we're probably better just leaving it for the lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
if I may add just one other thing, and because you talked about the waiting staff, a good way to remember is keep 3 points of contact.
There you go.
Okay, whether you're in the water and or at the river or whatever, and that's the voice of experience, folks. I've gone swimming twice before I got my staff.
Yep. Yeah, we I think on the waiter program, it's PFD and staff for the mandatory parts. Yeah, Mark does a great job of convincing you of that, and if you don't believe him, he'll beat you with the staff. So it works out.
So Norm, I would just like to add, that's why we have these classes, is so that you can practice before it actually happens, so that all these experiences that Ed's had and other people have had, you're going to get them when we go to practice in the pool or on the water. you're not going to get out there and just be thrown to the wolves or to the fishes.
Okay.
Right on, Tony, right on.
Norm, one of the chat questions that came in, you may not have seen, is could these certs be done during the one-on-one when we're released to do one-on-one training?
Let me jump in on that one.
Yeah, thank you.
If I can.
Help us, Rich.
You notice the list of volunteers that's necessary to make this a safe event. It's more than one-on-one. We need an absolute minimum of 2 volunteers. And if we're in a one-on-one situation, it is just not effective. We can't do it.
And the logistics, getting the waders and the boots and all of that stuff, if you didn't know that, it would be very difficult. And the pool is really cold.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when the water gets warmer, the amount of effort that goes in to get one person certified is huge if we're doing it one at a time. Especially if we're talking about float tubing or the second portion of the wader training that's going out to the river or a lake. It won't be really that effective. So I would say probably not. The other thing to keep in mind is that we would not have an opportunity to use that skill. Because if we're going to be going on even one-on-one trips, they're going to have to be on shore for the time being, I believe. That may change, but I think that's going to be the case. So we won't have the need for the training, okay, and the certification. But that remains to be seen. And then there was also another question, also from Ed Shelley. Which pool is typically used? In the past, we've used Norm's pool in his home and a couple of other people's. And so it's usually a private pool in somebody's backyard. Norm, would you also, somebody's got some noise in the background. Could you mute your, there, that's better, thank you. Norm, would you talk about the use of personal gear during the certification process?
Use of?
Personal gear, personally owned equipment?
Oh. Waders, you can bring your waders. So you would bring, that would be okay. You could bring your waders to the pool. You could bring your waders and boots to the river. I think that would be fine with Mark.
Yep.
Right. So as far as float tubes, I think Rich, you were talking about making the trips only with healing water tubes so that we have one kind of tube and everybody's familiar with that equipment so that's it. And over there.
Yeah, the other issue with personally owned equipment is we don't know how it's been stored. We don't know the condition of it. It raises a lot of issues.
The noise, Rich.
Can't hear
What's that?
everything.
Could you have everybody go on mute, Rich, because the noise is distracting.
Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to do that.
Rich can mute everybody. The host can mute everybody.
I know, here we go.
Yeah,
I just
Rich,
gotta
you
find the
might
right
have an
button.
option in your,
There we go. Everybody's muted, but I think me.
We have to unmute individually, Rich.
Yep, I'm working on it. Okay, Norm, I think we can hear you.
Okay. Would you repeat the question, Rich?
We were talking about personally owned equipment, especially float tubes. And my comment was that we want everybody just to use our float tubes because we know what they are and how they work and where they've been stored. Float tubes have been sitting out in somebody's shed, tend to get leaky real fast. Okay, and we also want to be sure that somebody isn't coming out with, for instance, a donut-shaped tube. We do not want anybody in an old donut tube because they can be death traps. And so that's the reason for that. But other gear is okay, and if you're comfortable with it, it's better to train in your own equipment if you have it. Okay. Other questions or comments? Raise your hand.
Mark?
Okay, Mark.
You got to unmute him or?
Mark is still
muted. How's that?
There
Are we
you go,
good?
Mark.
Yeah. Woo. Just a little experience on the river with different people who brought their own stuff. Couple guys brought their own waders that they've had for 20 years. Solid rubber, red ball, tractor tread shoes. Not good at all in the river. Too slippery and really hot. So, you know, you can bring it, but what I ended up doing was I put them in something that we had and they went, oh, this is much better. So just some experience in the past with that.
Yeah, if you want to do that, make sure you bring it to the pool session first, and that way Mark can get a look at it, lend some eyeballs on it, and save you the trouble later.
Yep, good idea.
Yep. Yeah, I think with any of this equipment, if it's safety related equipment, the volunteers have the ability to say, nope, you can't use that. If we don't feel that you can be safe in it, we're going to tell you, use our gear. We have to be really strong about that. You know, we've seen people come out with, 30-year-old stuff that just isn't as good as the new gear. It's as simple as that. They don't have Vibram soles on the boots, for instance, or they're old felt and they're slick, that kind of thing. It's just not safe. So we do reserve the right to say no. Okay? Want everybody to be aware of that. And it's all for your own good, believe me. It's not that we want to be a pain in the ass.
Reason why it's not good.
What's that?
I said we'll also try to explain the reason why it's not going to be the best choice.
Exactly.
It's not style.
Yep. All right. Other comments or questions?
So I just wanted to say that, safety is actually more fun than not safety. You can have more fun on a trip having gone through these safety courses. Debbie got to be our pop fist person when we went on one of our trips. And after that, we definitely were doing these water certifications. And we have a lot of fun on those certifications, but they're safety first.
Yeah. And I should also mention that, kind of Norm has been behind this thing since the beginning. And our water safety program in the Phoenix program is the best in all of Healing Waters. Okay, Norm pioneered this thing, and a lot of people have requested information from me about it, and they want to model their own programs on it. And so this is kind of a pioneering thing, and it's, as Norm mentioned, it's a work in progress. And so, any input that you have as we're going forward, all input is always important. Okay. Mike Klatt.
I heard you made a comment about equipment that has boots with felt soles, which are the boots that I have, and I have been using them. Are you recommending that I have those soles converted to a lugged Vibram pattern?
Those boots are still legal in the state of Arizona. There are now, I believe, 7 states that have literally outlawed felt bottom boots because of the risk of cross-contamination between waterways and invasive species. The felt are really good on very slippery rocks, but that's about it. The Vibram soles that you're getting on most of the decent boots now are almost equivalent, at least in my opinion, especially if you have the metal studs in them. And I would strongly recommend the metal studs. So, you can continue to use them, Mike. You have to make very sure that when you're finished, you get them rinsed off and completely dried, which even in the Arizona sun can take a couple of days.
Right, I have to leave them outside. But are you saying I should convert those to the Vibram soles?
That would be my opinion, yeah. If you have the ability to convert them, personally, I would do that.
Okay, very good.
Okay. There are some boots out there named Corkers, Korkers, that have soles that are replaceable, and you can swap them out. You can have felt, you can have Vibram, and you can have studs in them, and they can. And those are becoming quite popular too. I think, John, you've got a pair of those, don't you? Yeah. So that's a good option at this point too. Yep. So, there we go. He's even showing them to us. Good. Other comments or questions? Excellent presentation, Norm. Thank you.
Hey, Rich, I had a question.
Let me see, we have a couple of other questions here, I think.
Joe Mag has got a question.
Yes, what if we have our own equipment and have someone look at it to certify, like one of the volunteers? Bring it to the certification program and we'll take a look at it then. That would be the time to do it.
Yeah, almost everybody's got a recert.
Yeah, at this point, just everybody does. And it'll be kind of a scramble when we finally get the go. Getting everybody boat certified first and do all the pool work is really the best and the only place to start, okay? If we are able to later in this year, if we can get onto, for instance, Wood Canyon Lake towards the end of the season, that may be your first opportunity, and you will need a boat cert for that trip.
Yep.
So, and we can get quite a few people on the water that way. So when it happens, it'll be kind of a mad scramble, and we may have to do a couple of weekend sessions to get everybody covered.
Yeah, I hope you can find a demonstrator that doesn't need to be recert.
Unfortunately, I was one of the last ones to recert myself, so you may wind up getting what you've always wanted, put Norm in the cold pool.
I've got a question for you, Rich, and you probably can't answer this, but this COVID timeout, so to speak, is national entertaining thoughts or words about not counting that in the recert piece? In other words, hey, if we got like a 1 or 1.5 or 2 year period that we can't even be on the water, should it really count in the case of recert?
What I would say on that, Ed, is that first of all, this certification is a Phoenix cert. It is not a national cert. So it's up to us. And I think that everybody's going to need to recert. It should be time-based because our skills change over time. The fact that we're not on the water and that we've been taking this time out does not stop the clock. Let's face it, we're not getting any younger. You know, and our skills are changing. So we need to,
Ed.
I think we need to research, because remember, Ed, one of the key things about this is demonstrating to ourselves as well as to others that we're capable and confident in the water. Okay, and the only way we can do that is by doing it. Anybody have another idea on that? Does that make sense?
I think you nailed it.
Okay. All right. And as Tony said, it's kind of fun. It's not a bad thing altogether. We get to go and splash around in somebody else's pool and make a mess of their yard.
Yeah, especially if we have hot dogs. Gotta have the
And
hot
we get
dogs.
hot dogs afterwards. Hey, nothing wrong with that, right?
That's what the volunteers are for, to clean up.
Yeah,
You got it, Tony.
Yep. So hopefully it'll be soon. That'll be the best news would be that everybody gets vaccinated and away we go.
Yeah, I think that's
the best thing. Yep.
There's no opportunity to do social distancing during the cert period. That can't happen. So we've got to get vaccinated and get on with it here.
Yeah. One of the key metrics that I believe National is going to be using is to get us under the 5% infection rate or positivity rate. And personally, I think that's some months away. Last week it was what, 23% here in Maricopa County. We got a long way to go. So we're going to continue to do these meetings. And hopefully we'll get to the point where we can do some casting and do those things one-on-one. I, for one, am rusty and could use a little practice. I think we all are. We've got people out there that have got new rods and or have not cast at all and need some instruction. We do have our casting instructors are still around, and I'm sure we can tie them in. And so we'll be getting things ready to go as we see more information coming out of National. We'll be ready as soon as they trip the trigger, so to speak, so that we can get going again.
Question for Jet and Kevin here: is the VA gearing up to vaccinate everybody?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Good.
Last I heard, your primary care is going to review your records, and they will call you and give you a code to schedule your appointment, and they're being done down in the basement.
Okay.
Well, that's still voluntary. Are you guys making it mandatory to be vaccinated in order to participate in the program? Because there's no way in heck I'm getting vaccinated. I'm gonna tell you that up front. And if that's gonna make me not be able to participate in the future, then unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to.
Me too.
I have severe allergies to, I was put in the hospital when the Army gave me a flu shot. I was in the ER both times.
Yeah.
I was in the ER for other allergy shots that the VA gave me just 2 years ago. There's no way I'm getting this thing. So anyway,
I'm with
if you
her.
guys are, if you guys are
Meg,
trying to make it mandatory, that, I mean, that goes against our rights anyway in general, but it's like a big deal. It's a huge deal.
It certainly is. And I understand that, Magda. And thank you for, telling us that. I think there has to be room for exceptions. That's going to have to come from national. They're the ones that are going to be setting the rules for this stuff.
But
We
that's,
know
that
that they
also
have
goes
got a,
against human rights, my right not to get injected by something at a health standpoint. They can't make that mandatory.
We'll cross that bridge when it gets here.
yeah, we'll have to see what the program tells us from national.
That's like saying, oh, you have to have birth control. It's mandatory. Like,
Well, I think what will
that's a health
probably
issue.
happen is at some point enough people will be vaccinated that the exceptions are not a problem.
Yeah, but even if you're vaccinated, it doesn't mean you can't get sick.
These-
So it
That's
doesn't
true.
make sense. So just like with flu, thousands of people get vaccinated for flu shot, and they still have tons of deaths from flu. And this is another type of flu. Like, you can't, just because you get a vaccine doesn't mean you're not going to get sick, and it doesn't mean you're not going to carry it and still be able to infect other people.
True.
All true. As somebody said, we're going to have to deal with it when it's in front of us, Magda. I am absolutely certain that you are not the only person that will be in that situation. And there's, like Norm said, when we get everybody else vaccinated, then the risk diminishes significantly for all. So we're just going to have to take it as it comes. So, Tony, you raised your hand? You have to unmute, Tony.
Yeah, I know. I was just saying I need to go, so I was saying goodbye.
Oh, okay. Good night. Good to see you. All right. I think that's going to do it for tonight. Well, I'll keep you up to date as soon as I get more information from National, and we'll just keep chugging along. All right.
Good meeting, Rich. Night, everybody.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Pack
Bye,
go.
guys.
Okay.
Good
Take
night,
care.
everybody.
Good night.
Go pack go.
Good night.
Hey, Jet.